Hello again. This is Phil Endris with Baseball Card Exchange, and you have just tuned into the Baseball Card Exchange podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that many people ask us, and that involves the rarity of unopened wax. Why does it still exist today? What are some of the more rare issues and things of that nature? And so today we're here with the owner of Baseball Card Exchange, Steve Hart, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the print runs and scarcity runs in unopened wax today. Steve, glad you're here.
No problem.
I know that there's many, you and I have had these conversations, many different packs, boxes, sets that are more rare than others. And so that is also reflected then in the price of that particular pack. So, for example, a set can be worth, say, $1,000. And then another set could be worth $2,000. And you would automatically think that the $2,000 set's packs would be worth more than the $1,000. However, in some years, those packs are more rare than the pack that's worth more. Yep. Can you give us some example of some of the rare packs out there today that you really don't see that often?
We might as well start from the beginning with, pre-World War II packs.
Okay.
They just don't exist.
Wow.
There's some Sport Kings packs out there. I think the famous Alan Rosen made a small find of 33 Sport Kings penny packs. When it comes to Gaudy, play ball, early stuff like that, almost everything we've seen is homemade and resealed.
Wow.
So it would be great if someday somebody could come up with some pre-war. Gaudy packs, stuff like that would be amazing.
Wow.
I know there's a few Gaudy Sport King packs out there, penny packs, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
However, they have popped open.
Okay.
And, the gum is completely stuck. But just recently I saw I believe it was a penny Sport Kings pack.
Okay.
With Ruth in it. You could clearly see it right through it with the gum molded to it.
Wow.
But the back is popped open. So.
Okay. So that's the pre-war packs. Then when you get into post-war packs,
okay.
Of course, 1952 Topps Baseball is certainly one of the most popular releases of all time.
Correct.
And there's not many packs out there today.
No, if it wasn't for a find a few decades ago out in Seattle, I don't know how many we would be seeing. I think it was a little under 100 packs that were found, and they were all first series. So finding any other series is very difficult. I believe there's a high number box out there where one of the packs was opened out of the box and it produced all high numbers. Yeah.
Is it pretty hard to see the card on the back of a 52?
Very difficult because most of the times it had a second inner wrapper.
Oh, okay.
That made it almost impossible to see who's showing.
Okay.
So yeah, it's hard to tell. Every time we assume it's first.
Okay.
Since that's always what we have been able to see.
So you said that you think there might be a 52 high number box out there somewhere. Is there any other 52 high number packs that you have saw in
Never.
Never. Wow.
Yep. Might be a resealed one,
right.
But I've never seen a good high number pack
in
my hands. Like I said, I know there's a box out there. So.
Yeah, and there's somebody watching this that doesn't understand the significance of the high number packs. Why is 1952 Topps Baseball high number so significant?
Well, first of all, it contains one of the most popular cards ever produced, the Mickey Mantle.
Yes.
It's not actually his rookie.
Mm-hmm.
51 Bowman is, but it's the more important of Mantle's early cards is the 52 high number. And then the stories behind it, how Topps couldn't give them away, so they dumped them in the ocean.
Right.
And then the famous Alan Rosen find, where there was several thousand high number cards, I believe almost 60 Mickey Mantles.
Wow.
So yeah, just the lore behind the 52 high number run is impressive.
And Mickey Mantle's not the only Hall of Fame rookie.
Eddie Matthews rookie is in that set, the last card.
Yeah.
Jackie's in there, not a rookie, but Jackie. And there's Campanella, Pee Wee Reese.
Yeah.
Some other guys too. Lots of Dodgers and Yankees.
So it's a killer series. Now, I've always heard a rumor, and I don't know if this is true or not, with the 52 high number set that Topps overproduced them, and I heard somebody say that they dumped them into the ocean. Did you ever hear that rumor?
Oh yeah, I think it's been pretty much confirmed too by
the
Topps Cyberger.
Okay,
I believe people like that have said that they put them on a barge and dumped them into the ocean.
That's unbelievable.
it could be an old wives' tale, but we've heard it plenty of times from high-up people, too, so it's most likely true.
So with the exception of 1952 tops in the 50s run of baseball, is there any other year that's more rare than another from 53 to 59?
I would say 56 baseball.
Okay.
That there's only been a few PSA has graded. Again, very difficult pack. The nickel pack. The penny packs show up more often. The nickel pack is nearly impossible.
So would a 56 pack be worth more than a 55 wax pack?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's one of those examples
Yes.
where,
much more. There was a find of 55 packs.
Okay.
They're all about X condition because the gum bled through the wrapper. But, lately they've been pushing 10, 12, 15,000
Wow. Okay.
because of the availability. Now, if a nice 56 pack became available, it'd be easy six figures.
Okay. So now we move into the 60s with baseball from 60 to 69.
Okay.
What would you say are the harder releases in 1960s?
64 is a tough pack.
Okay.
What's interesting about 60s baseball is the penny packs are
Okay.
the most difficult. 60, 61, 62, very difficult. 63, there was a find. Those pop up quite often. 64 is difficult. 65 was very, very difficult. And then I believe 20 or 30 packs popped up a while ago. But since they've been gobbled up by collectors, that's a very difficult pack. So penny packs from the 60s, believe it or not, are the toughest ones.
A lot of questions that I get at these shows when we have, packs out and displayed and the prices. People will say, oh, how much is that pack? And give them the price. So let's say it's a $5,000 pack, and they go, $5,000 for that pack. Well, if I open it, then I'm going to lose all my money because there isn't even a card worth $5,000, or there's only a couple cards worth $5,000 in this particular set. And I try to teach people and tell them, unopened packs is a market in and of itself.
Yes, it has no bearing on the cards inside.
Correct.
Advanced collectors know if you open it, you might get completely wiped out on a $10,000 pack looking for a card. And then maybe if you hit the big card, quality control is so bad, you might get a 90-10 centered Koufax. So the whole allure is in it being in its original form.
Right.
I like to compare it to starting lineup figures.
Okay, yeah.
88 starting lineups, there are some football players that are very difficult.
Very rare.
I think they were offensive linemen who nobody wanted.
Yeah, or small market teams.
Yes, and I think in the packages they could push $1,000.
Yeah, and condition.
However, if you just have the little figure, nobody really cares.
Right.
It's the same thing, but people want it in the original form it was packaged.
Correct.
And that's just like the 77 Star Wars figures. You can have the little figures by themselves, and they have some value. Now you have them in the packages in high grade, totally different game, even though it's still just the same figure in essence.
So the 60s, the 60s now introduce any cello packs, or is there any rack packs in the 60s?
60s tops made 1960 and 1961. 60 is not as rare as you would think because there was a big find of them decades ago. It included some 61s, but they're more difficult. 62, 3 or 4, we have seen Topps advertising sheets showing rack packs.
Okay.
But I believe in the end they just never made them because we've only seen 1 or 2 from, I think, 62 and 63.
Okay.
Probably a salesman sample or something, and it almost matched the one on the display, the advertising piece.
Wow.
And then they picked up in 66 again.
Okay.
With rack packs.
So are 66 rack packs rare?
Yes, 66 is tough.
Okay.
Yep, 67 is tough. 68 seems to be the one that pops up most often.
Okay.
69 is tough. And then, 70 is a little bit more available.
So as you move into the 60s, you have wax packs, cello packs, and rack packs. And again, just like you alluded to, if a cello pack is more rare in one year than another year, then it would hold a premium. Right. And it's not so much based upon the cards in the set, it's based upon the rarity of a certain year and the cello packs.
Correct.
Okay, so we have 60s, and we should move to other sports now, too, because, basketball.
Glad you brought that up. That's the one thing I was going to say. The most difficult and rarest is hockey.
Yes.
By far.
Okay.
Printed in much less quantities, purchased in much less quantities. Mostly the Canadian market, too. Mm-hmm. Some of the original 6 cities. probably purchase some tops. But as far as unopened goes, it's nearly impossible. A few decades ago, there was an auction that contained quite a few partial boxes. Rumor is they came from, don't quote me on this, but maybe a CEO or somebody from O-Pee-Chee.
Okay.
Who collected or had them as samples and kept them all and then auctioned off these partial boxes. And a lot of these packs, the only reason they exist is from this auction find.
Wow.
And Parkhurst packs are even just impossible.
Just impossible.
Just very few exist.
So what would you say is the hardest release or most rare release in hockey?
Believe it or not, 54, 55 tops, there's been a find of those.
Okay.
Those pop up. Then you go to Parkhurst, they're all yes, very difficult. Tops, 64, 65, the tall boy. Mm-hmm. Very, very difficult. I've seen a small handful of them.
Wow.
Other than that, anything in the mid-60s, 66, 67, 61, 2, all very difficult.
So of the 60s, 1960s hockey packs, would the 64, 65 be the most rare release?
It's almost impossible to answer because some of them I don't know if I've ever seen.
Oh,
But
okay.
64, 65 being, the very popular tall boy issue would probably be a rare one that would be most desirable.
Okay, then you get into the 70s with hockey. Is there any pack that stands out to you in the 70s?
Early 70s O-Pee-Chee.
Okay.
70, 71, 71, 72. Most popular, most difficult, most expensive. Tops 71, 72 on up. Mm-hmm. Fairly available.
Yep.
70, 71 a little bit more difficult.
And of course you get to 79, 80 O-Pee-Chee. And of course that's the Wayne Gretzky rookie year.
Oh yeah.
And maybe you can just tell the audience here in about a year ago or maybe a little over a year ago, you authenticated an unopened case of 1979-80 O-Pee-Chee hockey.
Yes, we did. Heritage Auctions came up with a case, came deep in Canada. And what the funny part of the story is, O-Pee-Chee labeled the cases. We all know how 79-80 is how you describe a Wayne Gretzky rookie.
Exactly.
On the outside of a Topps case was 79.
Mm-hmm.
On the outside of an O-Pee-Chee case, it was the digits after the slash.
Right.
So this gentleman had a case that was /80. Mm-hmm. For the whole time, he believed he had an 80-81 case. Until somebody said, why don't you peel back a little bit of the top and see what you see? And it was all white boxes.
Yes.
So that was probably a $3 million surprise.
Absolutely.
From what they thought they had.
Mm-hmm.
So...
And we don't see 79, 80 O-Pee-Chee boxes all that often.
Nope,
so
not
it's,
anymore.
It's
Nope.
pretty rare.
Yes.
I think people were Wayne Gretzky searching during the 80s, early 90s, and a lot of those boxes got opened.
Yep.
So then we sort of shift gears a little bit and we go to basketball.
Okay.
And basketball is obviously very, very rare.
Yes.
You have the earlier Bowmans, but then you go to 57 Tops, which is an iconic set.
Yes.
You have the Bill Russell rookie and many other rookies in that set. Mm-hmm. How often do you see a 57 Tops basketball pack?
57 packs are very, very rare. In that earlier auction I was mentioning with all the hockey, I believe there was about a half a box of 57 basketball.
Okay.
And that's where most of the real ones we see originated from.
Wow.
Was that one sale.
Mm-hmm.
61, 62 Fleer has had some finds over the decades of cases and partial cases. Mm-hmm. Those do pop up. I wouldn't say quite often, but a few times a year they hit auction.
So yeah, even in our auction, our BBCE auction, we've had a couple 57 Tops packs in our first three auctions. And certainly they've got a lot of action, a lot of interest.
Yep.
And so that's
every collector has that in their want list as a whole they need to fill.
Absolutely. So that's 57. Then we go 61, and as you alluded to, those do pop up.
Yep.
They're a beautiful looking pack.
Oh yeah, yep.
One of my favorite looking packs.
Yep.
And of course, then we go into the 70s with Topps basketball.
Yep.
And most of the packs in the 70s Topps basketball are
69,
affordable.
70, very difficult.
Exactly.
I think we've only authenticated 2 boxes ever.
Okay.
To whereas in 70, 71, there are some available. Mm-hmm. A longtime dealer, still has some in inventory who's been doing this since the 60s.
Right.
Not a lot, but it's available. But the 6970 is very, very difficult.
Absolutely.
Unopened material.
So the rest of the 70s, well, I would say probably 71's pretty tough, right?
Yep, 71 is difficult. 72, 73 is available.
Yep.
Quite often.
Right.
73, 74, a little bit difficult. 74, 75, 75, 76, somewhat difficult. And then 76, 77 on, are available quite often.
Right. And then we go to, 80, 81, which would have been the last Topps set made of basketball.
81, 82.
81, 82.
Yep.
But you have 80, 81, which is the iconic Bird Magic Irving rookie.
Yep.
And those boxes, we still see them today.
Yes. Oh, yeah, but very popular.
Very popular.
Two of the top, arguably 5, 10 players ever on the same card.
Exactly.
Both their rookies.
So then we have the 81, 82 Topps basketball. We do see those quite a bit, but again, very popular because that's the first card, that's just Magic Johnson or just Larry Bird. So then we go to the Flair release in 1986, 87. And what's interesting about 1986, 87, for those of you that don't know, that's obviously Michael Jordan's rookie. We do see these boxes quite a bit, but it was sort of Flair's first journey after 25 years back into the basketball market. And just sort of talk about the 86, 87 Flair basketball box for a moment.
From the time it came out,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking worthless. $12 a box, and we couldn't sell them. You would open a box and make 3 sets. We couldn't sell the sets. I remember a friend of mine, we promoted a small card show, and on the hour, he would give away a door prize, and he would give away a box of 86 Fleer.
Wow.
And would pretty much get complaints. Well, can I have a box of 86 Topps baseball instead? It was worthless garbage.
Yeah.
Jordan rookies, I can't remember, were a few bucks. Still nobody wanted them. Sealed cases were available, $144. Nobody wanted them. Now I would probably say it's one of the most important issues in the industry of all sports.
Yes.
Not the rarest, not the most valuable, but one of the most important issues ever released.
Absolutely. Of course, with the fame of Michael Jordan,
Yep.
Who many consider the greatest basketball player of all time, and then many consider him the greatest athlete of all time. And then not only that, Michael Jordan and the pop culture sort of following that he has as well, Air Jordan, Nike shoes. Everybody, it seems like, wants to add a 1986-87 Fleer unopened wax pack to their collection. And so certainly, while it's not the rarest, it is out there, and it holds a tremendous value. Now, because of the lack of popularity in the basketball cards in 86 in the year of release, Flair said, hold on, maybe we need to lower production just a little bit. And
Probably, yes. 87, 88, from what we understand, had a lower print run.
Yes. Doesn't have much many rookies.
Nope. Still has Mike, second-year Mike. As far as there is no Hall of Fame rookies, I believe.
And no.
Who would be the best rookie? Brad Daugherty.
Detlef Schrempf.
Yes, not very popular to some, but,
Right.
to the average collector, not very popular.
Exactly. So, okay, shifting just a little bit now. We haven't talked much about football.
Okay.
So let's talk about some of the rare football packs in the 50s.
Okay.
What would be the most rare pack in the 50s of football?
Any of the pre-54 Bowman football,
Okay.
impossibly rare. Pennies, nickels, just almost non-existent. 54 and 55 Bowman was in a major find in the 90s, so those are available, both pennies and nickels. All-American wax packs, very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Pennies are impossible. Nickels are nearly impossible.
What would a pack of 55 All-American go for?
I haven't seen one in so long.
Yeah.
I remember many years ago I had one, I believe, with Otto Graham on back.
Oh, wow.
And probably sold for $5,000, and now I could imagine it being 10 times that figure.
Yeah.
55 All-American Cellos.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's not an impossible pack. There was a find of boxes of those. A lot of them got opened, so
Right.
a lot of them in collectors' minds got destroyed. But just an awesome set.
Yes.
Full of awesome players.
It is.
Yep. And then 56 football, there's been some box finds.
Okay.
58 and 59 football nickel. Very difficult.
Wow.
Yep, very difficult.
Okay.
There was a couple boxes of 58 football found 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Okay.
I think those might be the only 2 boxes I've ever authenticated, and each one had a Jim Brown showing on the back.
Oh, wow.
While I'm checking the seal on the back of the pack, I'm looking through them to make sure they haven't been tampered with, and staring right up at me, one in each box is Jim Brown.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
I've seen what would be more rare, not rack, in 58, the cello or the wax?
By far the wax.
Okay.
I believe there was a antique roadshow where a woman walked in with hundreds of 58 cello packs.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Beautiful packs, browns on top, everything. A lot of them, a good chunk of them had mice had gotten into the corners.
Okay.
But it still produced lots of near mint packs.
Unbelievable.
So those are available.
Okay. So now we move into the 60s with football. What are some of the more rare releases in the 60s?
1960 Topps
Okay.
is a nearly impossible wax pack. And one of the reasons that it is confused a lot is that the CFL used the exact same wrapper that Topps used.
Okay.
So while most people submit or believe they have a 60 Topps wax pack, once we identify a player showing through the front of the back, it's almost always a CFL player. As far as finding a 1960 Topps pack, it's nearly impossible.
Nearly impossible.
Yep. 61 is very difficult. There's a few more of those, but very difficult.
Okay. What would be another tough release in the 60s with football?
64.
Okay.
They made both a 6-card and an 8-card, both very difficult. 62, believe it or not, is available. I believe there was a find of those back in the 80s. The 65 with the Namath rookie. There are a few boxes out there we've done. As far as loose packs and everything else, very rare.
Very rare.
Yes.
Yeah. And then it gets much easier after 65?
Difficult. 66 is difficult.
Okay.
67 is difficult. 68 on up is where we start to see them.
Okay.
All over the years they've popped up.
So racks, cello, is there any rack pack or cello pack that stands out that is rare in the 60s, 70s, much more rare than a wax pack?
I know 67 football was always very difficult, very rare. Football rack packs are all rare until you get to 72 on up. Those are available.
Right.
I'm trying to think. 67 football cellos, 66 football cellos, very difficult. 68 football cellos, difficult. But it's all, pre-71,
Right.
all football is pretty difficult.
Right. So when you get past 72,
Okay.
It becomes pretty
available.
Pretty
Yep,
available. It still has good value.
Oh,
but
yeah, yep.
It becomes pretty available.
Yep.
So with all of that said, what have you noticed in the market as it would relate to unopened wax value? Have you seen a jump in that value in the past 10, 15, 20 years?
Oh, extremely.
Yeah.
Extremely. I remember maybe 2012, 13 when the market jumped a little bit, and I had to do an interview at the National, and I said, it's jumped, but I believe it's peaked. Well, the following year they did another interview, and boy, was I wrong. However, I said, I think it's peaked.
Yeah.
There's nothing left in it. The following National, I did another review, completely wrong again. Several years in a row, I said, I just
Right.
can't see it getting much higher. And every year I was wrong.
Yes.
So
yeah, the reason why you're wrong every year is because with the ascent, if you will, of breakers now getting into vintage, they're starting to open these vintage packs and vintage boxes, and not only that, people that buy boxes that are expensive but not astronomically expensive are opening packs and trying to get PSA 10s, and so supply is going up and demand is going down.
supply is going down. Demand is going up.
There you go. Yeah, supply.
And it's just like land, they're not making anymore.
Yeah.
So-
Well, supply is going up with fake packs
Oh,
recently.
yes. Yeah, it's like land, they're not making more.
Right,
And
exactly.
so once it's opened, it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So the print runs and scarcity. We've just covered a few of those areas today. There's so many more, and this is what gives us that love and that desire to collect unopened vintage wax. And so that's all for us today on the Prince Runs and Scarcity. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to talk a little bit more in our next episode about the investment value of unopened wax. So stay tuned. We'll talk to you soon.